What is up, everyone? My name is Chris and Fanzon. You are listening to the Hidden Doors podcast. Upcoming is my conversation with Chris Templeton. He's the founder of The Stories We Tell, and it's a model, or he built out a model. It's based on three simple questions that help create more meaning and happiness in life. He's going to show us the illustration of the model and talk us in depth. In depth, we're going to talk about this model and hear how it can make us happier and more satisfied with our life. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. If you do, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done so already, hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date on more videos, podcasts, conversations coming down like this. I hope you enjoy.
I do, and it's part of how I make a living. I actually sell interviews with people so they can get their messages out.
Interesting.
Marketing
I
wise.
didn't know you could sell interviews.
You can.
Huh.
Yeah. People pay me to interview them for podcasts, or, they've got a book that they've written, that sort of thing. And so it's one of the ways I make money.
I like making money, so I like that style of yours.
What about you? What do you do?
So, the way I make money, I am a advertising professional in New York City, and my goal is to get this podcast to make me some damn money. But I wanted to eventually turn into a media company where I can drive revenue. For right now, it's more about bringing on awesome guests like yourself, talking about topics that can help people. And it takes up a lot of damn time when it comes to planning and talking to people and mixing, this stuff better than anyone. So it's time consuming, but my full-time job is not this. Yeah.
What kind of marketing for what industries?
So I do the advertising for Google.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So
Wow.
in tech,
It's a nice account to have.
it's a nice account. It's a nice big account. A lot of money.
What agency are you with? I'm familiar with a few of them out there.
Oh, okay. So it's funny. So the holding company is WPP, but there's another holding company that's Group M, and within Group M, my agency is called Essence Global. So
don't know it.
Yeah, I worked for a few different agencies. This one's one of the bigger ones in the world, probably.
I used to have EpiPen, and we worked with Wishbone and Hart Hanks and a couple others I don't remember. Anyway.
Got it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to do this. Anything that you want to make sure that we talk about, or anything that piqued your interest in particular?
I want to talk about everything, but I know that you have a model. I've watched a couple of YouTube videos, and you got a nice, beautiful model to help people. So that's something that I really like to hear about. I also think that you have a book out, or at least you're writing a book.
No, I'm in the process of writing a book, although not very actively.
Got it.
Right now, I'm making money doing the day job and trying to get this awareness out of this in podcasting primarily.
Yeah.
Being a podcast guest.
We'll talk all about it. But
Okay.
I guess let's first start off with, I know a little bit about you, but let's first start off with like an introduction of who you are and what you do.
Okay. Are we going?
Let's do it.
Oh, okay, cool. So I am Chris Templeton, and I am the founder of The Stories We Tell, which is, very simply put, 3 questions and a resulting model. Amazing what you can get out of 3 questions and how it translates into this model that has helped me and people that I've shared it with to just be more purposeful, have more meaning in their lives, be able to contextualize where they're struggling and why, and kind of what to do about it. So I started developing the questions in 2003, and I've just can't get the damn thing out of my head. And So that's kind of the short and sweet of how I got started with it.
Yeah. It's 3 questions, but I looked on your website. It's like, you have like when you say model, you actually have like an illustration of how you
Yeah.
should be thinking about it. Um, what made you start thinking like, how did that come to be? The It's a very sophisticated
It's a
model, it looks like, just for 3 questions.
well,
It's like 3 questions, but it's like a sophisticated illustration.
yeah. So I've always been fascinated with people's behavior, including my own. I grew up with a dad that I probably didn't recognize until my 30s or 40s. It was a huge narcissist, screwed around on the side, all that kind of stuff. And then I had a mom who just wanted everything to be okay. And so that kind of, I was always the last kid to get picked in school for a team or whatever. So just all of that, I didn't understand why the boys pulled the girls' hair when I just wanted to hold their hands, that sort of thing. So it's always been an interest to me. And so in 2003, my, as she loved to call herself, evil stepmother said to me, "Chris, you got to read The Power Now by Eckhart Tolle. Are you familiar with the book?"
I'm not.
Okay, so it's basically a spiritual book. It's about a guy writing it who really struggled with heavy depression and realized that he was talking to himself all the time, and that a lot of the talk that he was talking inside his head was making him crazy. And he had, uh, for lack of a better word, an awakening where he found himself just in a state of bliss. I think sitting on park benches for a couple of years, even. So he wrote a book called The Power Now, and the first premise is, hey, be here in this moment. But the thing that really got me was this whole idea that, oh my God, there are parts of our lives where we just hands down drive ourselves crazy. And it really, really resonated with me. At first, I was like, oh man, all my problems are, if you would just do this and you wouldn't behave that way and you were a better boss and that sort of thing. Right. And then we all do that. We all play victim in certain areas of our lives or have. And so that got me going on. I guess the thing about the spirituality piece with it is when I started playing with this and coming up with the questions, the first question is what's the story I'm telling? I wanted it to be something that was super simple. Like I just knew that if I was going to kind of go down this road, it couldn't be sophisticated. It would be great if kind of what it ended up being could be grounded in science, which a lot of science that's coming out in terms of neuroplasticity and CBT, cognitive based therapy, those types of things really fit this model very, very well. But I just wanted it to be something that I could use with my kids, that I could use with anybody. And also that if it worked, it didn't matter if they knew the questions in the model because my behavior would be different and I would be working from a different place. So, three questions. What's the story I'm telling? Story being anything that I'm thinking or visualizing in my head about myself or about the world around me. Because you've heard all the ego is the enemy and the inner bully and that sort of thing. We all are hardwired with this functionality that's here to keep us safe, but also is responsible for saying some of the most egregious things to ourselves that we would never let anybody else say to us, right? So, understanding that that's there, then, that if I look at my thinking as stories, I get three benefits. Number one, it takes me back a little bit and lets me be a little bit more objective about what I'm saying to myself. The second thing that it does is it recognizes that because it's a story, it's editable. Oh my God, I can change my story. And then the third thing that, I kind of have not focused on until recently is, what? These stories drive our behavior. If I think you're a jerk, I'm going to behave differently than if I think you're a good and solid guy. So that was the first question. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
I was talking to I had someone on the podcast come on a few months ago, and he was it wasn't in a model like yours, but it was something very similar to stories, and it's something that I think we naturally do without thinking about it, and you can be good or bad, and when I say good, it might not even really be good because like it might be hiding the truth a little bit, but
Yeah.
like my understanding is like, let's say you bomb at something, you do horrible, it's embarrassing, that presentation, I looked like a damn idiot. It sucks, it's gonna feel horrible, you're gonna go home. I just had a recent experience of just where I was like, I felt like just overly nervous and I didn't feel good. I got home, I was like, God damn it, man, this was a bad day. And I have enough I have enough principles and values and affirmations and goals that I keep close to me, and make sure I'm with it every day. And
Hmm.
enough experiences like this where when I get home, I'm like, you know what, today really effed me up, but you know, you have to get better every day. And you only get better when you fail and something wrong happens to you, and the goal is to improve. So if I did something wrong, that's actually good. I'll learn next time. It was a bad day. We get it. Everyone has bad days, and then this way I'm shaping my story to be less negative. To like, you know, this is actually giving me motivation to get the hell up tomorrow with the same ferocity as I had 2 days ago before this whole day happened to me.
Right.
And that's how I look at it. And is that sort of the gist of like the model that you're looking at?
You bet. What I say is actually, do you mind if I just throw the model up on the
Yeah.
screen real quick? Um, so this is the model, and um, what I say is the second question is, does this story serve me in this moment? In this moment? In this moment? In this moment? That is so critical because so much of the negative stories that we have are rooted in not being picked to be on the team until last, or not being the kid that was the cool kid, that sort of thing. So or being bullied in school, or having parents that just weren't present, whatever the case may be. We develop stories that help us to deal with those sorts of things, and what happens is we end up carrying them into adulthood. Well, the stories and the strategies that we had for dealing with things back then typically aren't very appropriate for right now as adults, right? And so the idea was, when I look at this model and I say, okay, the second question is this story serving me in this moment? And you can say no. Then if it's no, then we put it up here in what I call little me land or lesser me land. And so many people, when they see that, they're like,
What does that mean? Little me land.
little me land. It's just where when you're above this line, what's going on is you're in fear, is the core emotion. So think about yourself when you had that presentation go badly. Part of what happens is you're narrating, telling a story about how bad you effed up, and what you're good at doing, which is really exactly what I'm trying to help people to do, is to not take that story and turn a molehill into a mountain. And we are really good at that. And so, one of the things that's really cool about what you said is, I recognize that these things happen. And what you're saying, in essence, is I talk myself down from a place of fear to a place of curiosity, of something that's more solution oriented down here. Whereas when we're up here, man, oh man, are we all about the problem? And so what you're telling me that you do is you're able to take a crappy situation and reframe it into something that serves you. And when you say, I take a bad situation and I really learn from it, there are people that say, oh, Chris, what you should do is you should take that, really learn from it and move on. And there's just no authenticity to it at all. And it's not easy, right? It's no
It
fun.
sucks.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It
The,
sucks.
the funny thing is, like, the model and the way of thinking, it doesn't. It helps you a little bit, but it's still not going to feel great. Messing up, but it helps a little bit. And we're humans, so we're not always supposed to be on this ecstasy pill of always happy. That's not a realistic thing.
But think about it. Think about how much of new age thought, enlightenment thought, the stuff on, I go through some of the groups on Facebook and it just crushes me. Just be positive, all that stuff. And it doesn't work. You cannot just be positive after a situation like you're describing and expect it to go away. Or more importantly, for you to have any learning from it. One of the things that's so critical to me about this model and these questions is that we do not ever, ever push positive thinking. I want you to be able to look at the situation authentically and say, you know what, that sucked. I never want to go through that again. What are the things that I can do, right,
Yeah.
to be better next time around? Or kind of more globally, my question is what do I do to help myself to be the better version of myself that I really want to be? And we all struggle with that internally. Oh, God, I'm just not as good as I want to be. And so when you kind of recognize that there's this part of you that's hardwired to go negative on you, and you kind of put it into perspective, what you do is you help yourself to come down in my model, to come down from places where I call little me into authentic me. And that what that's doing is now, instead of being fear based up here, I'm more curious, and curious from the standpoint of, gee, what are the things that I can do to do a better job on that presentation, or that kind of thing the next time? What can I do to be a better version of myself? And so you're right that the model in and of itself doesn't provide those things, but what it does do is it provides the self-awareness of you being able to say, "Oh man, uh, I am up here really bugged about how this thing went, and I know that if what I do is I take a step back and look at it and think about what I did wrong and how I could be better." And it was a sucky, sucky thing. I hope it never happens again. But I really feel like I've made some progress. And then the next time I'm going to be in a better place because I didn't get stuck up here. Does that make
It
sense?
does. Can you put that back up? I have two questions for you.
Sure.
One is, what is do the colors mean anything, or is that just trying to make it?
Yeah. 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 So this is this side, negative emotion, positive emotion, neutral emotion. Okay.
Okay.
And so we don't, you notice that none of the questions have anything to do with emotion. Hey, Chris, how you feeling? How was that? It must have been awful, dude. Oh, I just can't even imagine being in your position and having to deal with that presentation, right? Like that does, because it's kind of like, okay, where the hell do we go from here? And so what in this model the idea is that what I'm doing is creating real self-awareness. Like, oh damn, I am in little me mode. I'm beating myself up. I'm fear-based. I feel like a victim. I feel helpless, hopeless, all those things. And I know that what I really want to be is my authentic self, and move myself down into here where what I'm doing is exactly what you said. I'm looking at the situation. I'm thinking about, I'm honest with myself about what a crappy situation that was, how I never want to go through it again. And I'm actually really going to learn from it, and not just, be in the perfect posture and hope everything turns out right. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes. I still. Yes. So many things here is like.
You still what? Tell me, baby. Come on. Not, how,
What if you're
take me to the mat on
what if you're
this.
a little man, but in the green side? So I think.
Excellent question. Excellent question. So, what happens over here? Like, this is where people are kind of at the at its height manic, I can do anything. It's great. Everything's amazing. The things I can do. And then that's kind of manic depressive behavior. Or, oh my God, this is the most incredible thing. We're going to go out and we're going to do a great, great job. But in their heart, they don't quite believe it. And the minute that it doesn't go right, wham, they come over here to the negative side. I can't believe I tried. Think about how many times we've tried or you've tried to do something and it didn't feel quite right. But I'm going to give it 110%. And there's this part of you like, no, I'm not feeling it. And it's almost like this part of you then becomes the part that's going to make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish at 110% doesn't happen. And so when you're on the positive side of the model, what you're doing is you're
It's a fake positive.
it's the pretend positive. It's positive that doesn't feel rooted or
So
grounded.
then what if you're in your authentic middle, but
Hmm.
you're in the red?
You're crushing it, dude. Thank you. So here's the key. If you think about this, when the further north that I go, the greater a range of emotion. Like on the negative side, like I think of this is rage. Like I am super angry. There's nothing that you can do to get me to come down. I'm gonna be angry at you for however long. I'm just that's that. And so what happens is when you look at the model, the reason that it's this funnel is because down here, this may be, I think of this as being frustration.
Got it.
So,
So a
and
lesser toned down version of rage.
exactly, well, yes, but here's the difference. When I'm in authentic me land, in that middle area, what's going on is I feel centered and grounded about it. So I'll give you a great example. I had a vendor who went to my biggest client ever, who I had hired on to do Google AdWords for the client. And he sent her an email saying, I distinctly told you not to do something. Right? Like, that's the last thing you want one of your vendors to ever do to one of your clients. You with me?
Yeah.
So I'm sure that initially I was probably right about here, maybe even higher, right? But at this point, I had already been practicing these questions, and the model was coming together. And so what I did is I immediately sent the guy an email. I said, "You are not to talk to the client. I will be back to you at some point. I got to settle down. I got to relax before I come back to you with a response." And it took me over a week to really, to gradually get to frustration. But when I got to frustration, that's where, when you're below this line, the difference between being below the line of does this serve me and above it is that above it, we're so problem oriented. That's all we can see. Like we're seeing red. We're so mad in that example. And we all know that, time heals all wounds, that sort of thing. It's just that this part of me that's yelling at the, let's just talk about this guy real quick. One of the things that I talk about is that we're always telling stories, we're narrating what's going on with us. When we come up above this line, this little guy turns into the protector, I like to call him. And the protector is what people commonly refer to as the ego. It's the inner critic, the inner bully, that part we talked about where, you know, uh, the things I'll say to myself that I would never let anybody say to me, that's
Yeah.
that protector. And the reason that I call it the protector with a capital P is we are so good at listening to him, and he wants us to believe that, you know that we're the problem, everything around us is the problem. And there's books out called The Ego is the Enemy, that sort of thing. When we push put that part of us, that aspect, that's fight, flight, freeze response. It's why we're on the planet today, because we have this wiring that keeps us super, ready in case of lions, tigers, and bears. But now what we're doing is we're using it in our interpersonal relationships, that sort of thing. So when you recognize that there's this part of you that I call the protector, that's making mountains out of molehills, what you do when you had that situation in that presentation is you were like, yeah, no, dude, we're gonna we're gonna keep you pretty calm. We're gonna try and keep you in this area here, and then gradually with time and thinking
Yeah.
things through and that sort of thing, move south. So tell me why that cracks you up, because I love that it does.
It's just funny because no matter how good you are at self-talk, you're still gonna be in that upper you're still gonna go down, you know? You can't avoid that. It's
And,
unavoidable.
and this goes back to what I was saying earlier in regards to why I struggle with, positivity movement, that sort of thing. What so much of this kind of enlightened mindset is that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to talk like this. I'm going to wear the right clothes and I'm going to meditate. And one day, Chris, I'm going to be enlightened. And nobody gets there. But when you recognize that, and it's because they're trying to do it in a way that doesn't work. I'm just going to be positive and speak in this voice. And so when you recognize that, yeah, I'm going to go up there, that that part of me is there always, but I can change my relationship to how loud I let it get and how I respond to it. It sounds so damn stupid, but it's so huge from the standpoint of all of a sudden I've got places to anchor why my behavior is the way it is, to recognize, like, just to recognize that we have this part of us that's hardwired, that's fear-based, negative. When we recognize that and then can start to talk it down, it changes how we behave. Like, it truly, think about when you were younger and you had a presentation like that and it went south. Think about how long you drove yourself crazy. And now you go, oh, that was the protector just beating the crap out of me. And it didn't serve me at all. I mean, it did in a way, but it's, kind of how you get served at, above the model is by at some point reframing those stories into things that serve you.
What I like about, that model, so if you show it again,
Hmm.
is in the middle. So, initially, when I heard about the red, blue, green, right? My initial
Hmm.
brain was like, okay, red's bad, green's good, blue is like, whatever. But it's interesting because, right? Because like frustration when you're in the middle and you're in the red, right?
Hmm.
It's it's a to me, it's annoying to be frustrated, but it's
Hmm.
necessary if you want to improve. If you're not frustrated with, like, say, a process at work, you're never going to want to improve it. If you're not
Oh
frustrated
my
with,
God.
not being good at something, you're going to want to improve it. So it's actually, to me, it's a good thing that it's a nice negative. It's like you need that side of you if you want to, like, have the fuel to improve something.
But see, Chris, here's what you don't understand. If I'm just positive and I meditate a lot, I'll just be fine and I won't have to have any confrontations with anybody. I won't have to, because everything's just going to be fine. Why don't you understand that that won't work in any way, shape, or form? Right? I mean, it's kind of like I want it to people to really see the difference. And by the way, that attitude sits squarely here, right? This is where I'm going to be enlightened. And they don't feel it. I had a friend of mine say, she said, I had this guy who as a friend, and he said, I've been reading these books and I'm just here in the moment. And she said, God, the thing was, it just didn't feel authentic at all. It didn't feel, and when you're below the line, one of the things that I like to say is that when you're down here, you may have negative emotion, you may be frustrated, but you feel centered, you feel grounded, you feel like, look, I didn't want to deal with the vendor who told my client, I distinctly told you not to, right? And so I finally got myself down here. But But when I'm down below that line, I'm much more solution oriented. So I'm way more likely to, to be frustrated, and that's okay. And if he misbehaved again, which he did, you know, you may go back up above that line, but when you
Yeah.
recognize that, the deal is, what really this is about more than anything else is knowing that I'm going to go above the line, but trying to stay closer to it, right? So that I'm not in these crazy places, because you can, I think you can see it, that this is kind of darkened up here and this is lightened down here. Up here, this is the cloud that we walk around with, when we're driving ourselves crazy. And the further south that you go in the model, the lighter you are, the more relaxed you are, that sort of thing. But you still have emotion. So, the goal of this model, and kind of the prescriptive value of it, is that what I want to do is spend more of my time further south in the model, recognizing that I'm going to go up here occasionally, but I don't give that protector enough free reign. Like, I need to hear him. I need to hear him. I need to hear what he says. Because like you said, that's kind of where the basis of the growth is. Man, you really blew it on that slide and that slide.
How do you get to
Don't want to do
enlighten
that.
me? There seems like a third
It's a
bottom.
great
Is that an
question.
impossible
Well,
feat? Is that like the
no, no, it's a great question. So, just before I bring that back up, if you are somebody who's stuck above the line on a regular basis, one of the things that's a huge characteristic of being in little me land is that my outlook on life is conditional. I'll be happy when your behavior is the way that I want it to be. I'll be happy when all the damn liberals behave like conservatives, or vice versa, right? All that is when I will finally be happy and not so frustrated with the world around me. That's kind of part of how the above the line thinking is. So what happens is, when we're in that place on a regular basis, and something that's super super cool, like, I used to take my daughter to her softball games, and this grandpa would come in and he would just, I'm here to see my daughter. Don't look at me. I don't want. And then his daughter would come with his granddaughter in her carriage, and that guy went from, literally being, kind of up here, to immediately going right here. And he probably, the minute that he stepped away from the baby, went right back up there. But but so the issue is, if you live conditionally and you spend a lot of time above the line, we have a tendency to let all these little moments of meaning just pass us by unaware. And when you start to come down below that line, you start to see and be more appreciative of, oh my God, I drove 2,000 miles with my wife a couple of weeks ago from St. Louis to back to Napa. And it's little things. It's driving in the car and both being quiet and just enjoying each other's company. Like, that is a moment of enlightenment. And the thing is that, in regards to your question, when you're above the line, you think that it's all going to come at once, right? One day I'm going to be enlightened. When you live below the line, you recognize that there are all these little things that have meaning and purpose, and you're more open to seeing them because you're not letting that protector throw that cloud over you all the time. And so, for me, like, I'm 61. I've my wife and I have been together for 32 years. We have 3 kids. They're now all adults. And if I didn't live, and I'm not saying I lived all the time in authentic me land. I mean, I definitely went up to little me land on a regular basis, but less and less and less severe. But because I spend way more time in authentic me land, like all of those little things have meaning. And you're like, "Oh my God, I'm not asking what's the meaning of life and what's the purpose of my life," because you're not beating yourself up, having that protector, that hardwired negativity knocking you down all the time. Does that make sense
Yes.
in
So
terms of kind of the enlightened me piece?
so it seems there are pieces of enlightenment. Like it seems like this is a very dynamic triangle. You're gonna be all over the place. The idea is when you get one place,
Moment to
you want to
moment.
shoot downwards, um, and sometimes you'll shoot so far downwards. I guess that there'll be peak moments when you hit enlightenment.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to point out that there's all kinds of different things that are those enlightened experiences. One of the things that people talk a lot about is flow. And so, there's the runner that you think about, the marathon runners, right? And they start right here. Oh my God, this is going to be, and probably even higher. This is going to be a great race. I'm really looking forward to it. And they start running, and all of a sudden it's not so great. Oh wait, sorry. So they start here, and then they're running, and all of a sudden they're starting to hit that wall, and then they're up here. They're like, "Oh my God, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this." And that is this protector yelling in your ear, right? And at some point, this is one of the weirdest things to me. At some point, the protector goes, "There is nothing I can do here." Shuts up, and we go right down here into runner's high. And so there's all kinds of experiences that we have that when we're just a little more aware of kind of the good stuff, and I'm not against being positive. I just want it to be
Authentic.
authentic. Thank you. That you start to see those things. And so i- in answer to your question, I'll say this. Enlightenment is like sleep. You can't get there by forcing yourself to do it, right? I can't force myself to sleep. But what I can do is, as I get better and better at what at these practices and asking these questions and recognizing where I am, the further down I am in this model, the more I recognize all the stuff that has real meaning for me. And because I'm not letting the protector define what enlightenment is, I see all these little things, and I'm all of a sudden, I mean, the relationship with my wife, the relationship with my kids, the friends that we have. Oh my God, like really just powerfully good. But you can't be there up above the line. So when we start to practice being below the line more often, understanding what it is, understanding it's about, kind of dealing with the protector in a way that serves us, then we are below that line and we are way more likely to have lots and lots of moments of meaning. But typically, yeah, it's not this. I don't know anybody who says, the Dalai Lama sure as hell doesn't say, "Oh yes, I'm enlightened and I'm always enlightened." Nobody, none of the thought leaders that way say that.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting model. It seems like you thought of a lot of different. It seems like a simplistic thing of three questions, but I
Yeah.
I threw a bunch of different scenarios at you, and it seemed like you all had it figured out. So it seemed like you thought a lot into this. How long did it take you to build and think through this model?
Well, I started it in 2003, and I would say I added the idea of the protector about 2 years ago.
So it's a continuous
And so,
evolving. Will you? Yeah,
yeah,
got it.
and I added kind of the spiritual aspect to deal with how people have religion, or now people talk about the universe, that sort of thing, and how to kind of translate how we go from, if you're spiritual in any way, religious, spiritual, whatever, it doesn't matter to me, that kind of this is where that comes in and why I have this kind of bright light down here at the bottom. And what I usually say is kind of to put this into perspective is I say this place here is this little light of mine. I'm going to let it shine. You know, that we just all know that we have places where we really shine. And like when you start to recognize that if just make my life a practice, like I want everybody to walk away from your podcast today with me going, okay, the model was fine. I guess it was okay. Or I can't stand it. I don't care. If I get you to say, I'm going to make my life from here on out practice, takes the protector off the job a little bit because he's like, oh, I don't have to worry. I don't have to be. And and just practice to be a better version of yourself without fooling yourself. If you think that it's all about positive thinking and how I talk and that sort of thing, that's all the protector on the positive side.
Got it. Um, it's interesting because now it's a mindset, but yeah, it's like then there's tactics. Like there's various tactics you could use to get to where you're trying to get to. From my
Hmm.
experience, I feel like it's a combination of like that mindset. It's a combination of I think sometimes some people can add humor. I think humor sometimes is a nice touch to bring you from that above the line, below the line. Don't take yourself so serious.
Absolutely.
So if you know what, laugh it off. You know, this day really kicked my ass. Wow.
Yep.
Let's go to sleep. Let's just wake up tomorrow. Let me take this loss today and like just laugh
Let
it
me have
off.
a cocktail and just relax and watch a stupid movie. Like, what in the world is wrong with that? Right. And recognizing that, you know what? I mean, one of the biggest things is just recognize, oh man, I need some time. I need some time for that protector to just mellow out on me and not be kicking my butt all over the place. Right. And when you recognize that that's how I'm wired, oh my God, it changes everything. Like, and yeah, yeah,
That then there's also structure in my head. I'm a very structured thinker, but like structure is like every day I have this reminder on my phone that pops up. It's like a task thing on my phone. It's goals is one of them, so I always keep my goals top of mind. Two is just daily affirmations, and one of them is what I mentioned, like two parts actually. It's like one is you need to you'll the goal is to get 1% better every day. There are going to be plenty of times that you fall on your face, you fail, you feel embarrassed, you hate your maybe not hate yourself, but you hate that period you were in, and then
yep.
those things are going to be moving you forward. Blah blah blah. So like that's a constant ring in my head, even when I'm having bad days. It keeps a structure. Then there's like
Eh,
I always say, look, you know, like finding your success sometimes is like pushing through a fabric. Like if you think about maybe a fabric that is like it's tight on each end, but it's like straight, and then you have to push through it. The fabric will start to bend.
Yep.
If you kept pushing, it would get harder and harder, harder, and you never know when it's going to break. But eventually, it will, and it's going to be a hard ass time trying to get through it. So my structured thinking is like, look, you're going to go through some bad times. It's going to seem like the end is never near, but it eventually success will come and you'll break through it. And so I have things of putting my story, like fixing my story for me. So I make sure when I do have that bad day, because sometimes you forget. Sometimes you just forget this whole model. It's like this model might be beautiful, and then like 6 months later, you sort of like it loses in your memory, and then you have a bad day and you feel horrible. But if you have the structure, on that bad day, you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. So this is what I need to think about. So those are a couple things that have helped me. I don't know if you talk about any like other principles or practices.
Well, just a couple of things on what you just said. Number one of the things that's really, really important with goals and with affirmations. I also talk about the sticky note process. Start with where you are. Like, understand, I'm not where I want to be, right? And that's okay. Don't like it. I want to get rid of the baby down here, right? I, that sort of thing. But start with where you are authentically, right? I'm a little overweight. It's not where I'd like to be. So that we just, and so much of what I have figured out in regards to this model is so much of what I'm trying to do to move south in the model is to really address the protector so that the protector feels like he doesn't have to be worried. So, for instance, starting with where you are and then thinking about where you want to be from two perspectives. Like for me, I spent just a ton of time on a sailboat when I was in my 20s, all United States and that sort of thing. And it was lovely. For me to think about that and being on a boat, like that's a nice goal for me. And it's comfortable for me because like I can picture it. I've lived it, that sort of thing. So when you go for big goals, make sure that they feel good. Like I would really love to spend 6 months on a boat and I can totally feel it, but make sure that you can feel it. But then also at the same time, goals ought to be about the little steps. Have you heard of Atomic Habits, the book?
Yeah, I did a book review on that.
Perfect. And so, his whole thing is you build momentum a little bit at a time. And so, that's one of the things that I think is really important is that when we look at these things, goals, that we don't create a situation where the protector's on, oh my God, he wants to do this every day he wants to meditate every day for an hour. Oh man, we are screwed. I don't know if we can do this. Like that is, think about it. That's that little protector whispering in your ear. So for me, when I started meditating, I was like 3 days a week, 5 minutes a day. Don't care if I get it wrong. Don't care if I get it right. Don't have to sit in my whole initial approach on that goal was to keep the protector off the job, right? Instead, what I ended up doing is in the first 2 or 3 years, I think I must have been 3 years, I meditated 700 times for an average of 20 minutes a day. But it's because I didn't have these high bars that didn't feel attainable. It's really the Atomic Habits
Yeah,
kind of
it's a
thing.
good book.
So, yeah. So I think that's really important that we just look at all of these things that we're trying to accomplish and make sure that we're doing it in a way that doesn't light up the protector. And then that just makes everything hard. He's a contrarian.
So when is this damn book coming out?
Oh, I don't know. Probably a year or two. I started doing this work. I started bringing this out and getting on podcasts like yours about 6 months ago. And right now, work wise, my real life and this is about as much as I can fit in, and that's fine. I'm totally comfortable with it. Um, so we'll see. But in the meantime, there's plenty of stuff that's on the website, on the YouTube channel that I have, uh, in terms of being able to see it on the YouTube channel. There's 14 videos up with a friend of mine that I had told about the model maybe 9 years ago, and she came to me right before the pandemic and said, "Hey, I've had kind of a messy upbringing, kind of struggled through life, and you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to just sit down with you and tell you about a problem I'm having, annoying coworkers or issues with relationships, and just apply. I want to just tell you what it is and have you apply the model to it." And I mean, she'll tell you that it has been transformative for her. She's not like this, but she's in a way better place.
It's
So,
awesome.
so there's lots of good stuff out there. The other thing I just want to quickly say is, in terms of practices, the other one, I'm not a huge fan of gratitude in and of itself. A lot of talk about gratitude, and gratitude is really, really awesome if you for the things that you really do feel grateful for, but there's all the rest of the world that I got to figure out how to come to terms with. And for me, that is all about appreciation. So this is, you can see kind of the way that I get south on the model is I appreciate. I understand that people are up here or over here. And when I appreciate, and that's what's so cool about the model is because it's universal in nature, I can appreciate why people are up there. Glad I'm not up there. Therefore, there, but for the grace of God go I type of thing. And appreciation's a really cool way to deal with all the other stuff that gratitude just doesn't handle. So that's another area that in terms of a practice, like when you start appreciating stuff more and you start recognizing the icky stuff, you also start recognizing the good stuff, and that's getting me to that place where I'm seeing more of those moments of meaning.
So, has anyone ever told you that you have an amazing tone? I feel like you could, like what's that famous guy who always like narrates? Uh,
Could be Peter Coyote.
no,
I don't know.
I forget his damn name.
Is it Ron Howard in
No,
Interested Development?
no, but you have a very good radio voice. Have you done radio
Oh, thank you.
before?
Yeah.
You have.
Yep. I did a radio show for our local Chamber of Commerce for a number of years and
Gotcha.
interviewed people.
So you've been doing
But
this
you know
for a
what?
while.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the confidence. Like I've spent so much time on this, and you could take me to another subject. You could take me to Google AdWords, and I would be a wreck in 5 minutes, right? And that's it's just like all these little things that apply. Confidence is a perfect one. We don't 90% of the confidence issue that we have is the protector yelling in our ear that we're a piece of garbage. And when we start to put that in, then confidence is a whole lot more. You're gonna have a hard time getting me into protector mode talking about the stories we tell. It's just because I'm well versed in it.
Yeah. Well, it was a pleasure having you on here. I'm waiting for that damn book to come out. Is what I'm waiting for.
Thank you.
I'll check in
I
a couple
appreciate
years
it.
on that book.
Yeah, maybe sooner. Who knows?
All right. I know your website. You got a YouTube channel. I'll point people in that direction in the description. Anything else
Cool.
that you have?
The only thing that I would really appreciate if your audience would do is run over to YouTube. I don't have a vanity URL, youtube.com/other stories we tell. But if you search for other stories we tell, up comes a little thought bubble that in blue, and then in the middle is other stories we tell. Click on that and hit the subscribe button for me, please. And then there's a playlist called The Honesty Project, which is me and Melody, the woman I told you about, running through this stuff. And most of them are 20 minutes to 30 minutes, and they're just really good.
I can vouch for you.
No BS.
I've watched a couple of them. They're very good.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's the best way. And then otherstorieswetell.com. And I'm not a coach or anything like that. However, I am hireable for this. Oh man, we can go a whole nother.
What can we hire you for? How many things can you be hired for?
You can hire me for individual issues like why can't I get where I want to go, and we can apply the model to that. This is huge for leadership, because when I recognize that a good leader lives below the line and brings his people below the line, as opposed to the crappy leader that we're just, oh my God, they're everywhere, above the line, micromanaging, or everything's great until it's not kind of thing. So there's just so many places that this applies, but leadership is a huge one for me.
Got it. So all the leaders go to Chris Templeton.
Oh yeah. Anybody that wants to be a better version of themselves and wants to have a tool to look at anything, whether it's your religion, your spirituality, and say, gee, is this serving me in a way that I really want? Can I do to change it enough that it does serve me?
We will end off there because that was a beautiful ending. Chris, I appreciate you coming on here. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Totally my pleasure.
Yep, it was amazing. You're a very good conversationalist. It's amazing to have you on. So we'll have to do it again one day.
I would love that.
So appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Take it easy. Bye.